Hey all. So I got some lovely yak roving. I got this from Wool Interrupted. You can see there, Wool Interrupted. It's literally like a short, tiny little fiber. It's like cotton. It's very, very fine. And I wanted to spin this with something to give it strength, which ideally would be silk. With the silk, I wanted something that would be the same staple length roughly so that I could make some puni rolags. There we go. So you can see I blended these with silk. Now, don't have a heart attack, but I will cut silk to make it match the staple length I wanted. So I did a quick sample spin, spinning woolen. There we go. So it's a really rustic looking spin, but there's lots of air trapped in there. And it's a good, strong, stable yarn. And it would make like such warm mittens and cowls and hats. And there's no scratch in this at all. No itch factor at all. So because I wanted to cut the silk, I got this in my monthly fiber subscription with Wool Interrupted, and it is a sari silk. So it's been shredded saris, and then they're pulled into this roving. So you can see they're like threads and stuff. So if I'm going to cut something, I know, cut, you're going to cut silk? I am. I'm going to cut it down to this roughly the same staple length as the yak. I'm going to blend them together with my hand cards, make some rolags, and then spin it woolen. Grab your cards if you wanted to try it, if you have some yak and silk you wanted to try it with. Otherwise, you can just watch me do it, and then we'll spin some. I'm just using my Paradise Fiber hand cards. They're 72 TPI. These are kind of my do-all cards. I did recently get some Howard Brush Company. These are cotton carders, and you can see I attempted to use them, but frankly I suck with them yet, so I went back to my old standby. For rolling them, I have a pair of number 4 knitting needles, so we need a couple of these. I do like to, because I'm like 2 feet tall, all right, I'm 5 foot 1.5, 5 foot 2, to sit comfortably. I have my fancy box. Because it tends to get everywhere, I use an old pillowcase as a lap cloth, just to try to contain the mess a little bit. Scissors! I got my scissors. All right, lay out your lap cloth. Grab your hand cards. I'm going to move forward a little bit here, see if we can get a better view. So I'm just going to, from the end of my roving, I'm just going to pull off a little chunk of yak and put that on the hand cards. We don't want to work with too much because we want to blend it. So the less you use, the easier it is to do. And I'm going to find the end of my silk. And we know that the staple length on the yak is about, let's say, a thumb width. So I'm going to look at roughly. Okay, look away if this is going to distress you. You don't need to watch it. I know for some people this is absolutely just hideous thing to do, but I'm doing it anyways. Now this silk is very tightly packed, so it's not going to need much. So that's probably enough silk right there. And I'm just going to fluff it out a bit because it has been pulled, so it's kind of wants to cling together. And we're going to plop that on with the yak. Okay. And we're going to blend those together using our cards. Now, I will tell you, I am a lousy hand carder. And I haven't really gotten all that much better at it. So if you're actually looking for instructional videos on how to use hand cards, I don't think I can really help you. It's one of those things you have to watch a bunch of videos and then try to figure out your own method for doing it. I mean, I know the theory of it is to try not to grind your teeth together, to lightly pass it over. There should just be a whisper of tines. There's never a whisper of tines when I'm doing it. It's always more like, eh! Well, maybe not quite that bad, but it's not really a whisper of tines, I'll tell you that. So you can see it's starting to blend, and I just keep transferring it back and forth and back and forth and just working it up. That's actually almost perfect. So this time I'm going to very carefully try to get it across the card somewhat evenly. Oh, actually that one came out pretty darn good. All right, so put aside the one hand card. Ow! Don't try to grab it if it's dropping. I just did that again. You will stab yourself. All right, so you can see we have the beard sticking off the end. You can see it's roughly blended. I mean, you can keep blending as long as you want until it's like totally homogeneous, or do like I have. I've got some where there's more yak, some where there's more silk. I like that. I'm going for a sort of rustic look. I like that look. To me, if you don't want rustic, then why are you spinning your own? Like, half the fun is to make it look like it's hand spun, right? Although that's not to say I haven't spun yarns where I'm trying to disguise the fact that it's hand spun, but I like to have a little bit of roughness to my yarn. All right, so catch your beard between the two and then lift and pull. Do this very gently now because you don't want to tear it apart. You want to have like you're working with a bat. Just pull up gently and twist. Pull up gently and twist. Pull up gently and twist. And so on and so forth as you work your way across your card. You can also do this on a blending board. I've never tried blending fibers with combs, but I would say that these would be way too short to even attempt to do on combs. And I have done a lot of crazy stuff with combs. But this is pretty much what cards were designed to do. So you wound it all off onto your, in my case, knitting needles. Any 2 sticks will do. Pencils, whatever. Then I just push it all towards the middle and then twist it. Wrap my hand around it, twist it. And what that does is tighten up the fibers. Now you don't want it too tight or you're not going to be able to draft. But this just kind of smooths it. And I just love the feel of having a nice little puni rolag. Then you just pull out one and pull out the other. And there you have your blended rolag. So this time, I'm going to start with the silk fibers on the bottom. Again, look away if this is going to hurt you in any way. You don't need to watch this part, the mangling of the silk. I mean, in my opinion, it's already been mangled to make this prep. So a little bit more mangling isn't going to hurt, and it's going to give me what I want. And I mean, really, the purpose of spinning your own yarn is to do what you want, to experiment, to have some fun, to try things that people will go, oh, you can't do that. Well, why not? Maybe you can. Maybe it is a bad idea, but try it and find out. All right, so I'm just going to pick that apart a bit, spread it across the card, grab my yak roving, pluck off a little chunk. There's a white hair in there, probably a guard hair. And spread out the yak. If you want to get very precise with this, you could actually weigh your fibers and aim for a 50-50 blend. So like a gram of yak for every gram of silk, or maybe you want to do a 30-70 or whatever. You can make it as precise as you want. Me, I'm not that precise. I like to have some variations. I like the differences. To me, that's what makes it fun, is to have those little variations. Maybe it's just me. Maybe my life is chaos and I like it that way, which is entirely possible, and I do believe is valid. So just, whoops, I'm digging too deep again. See, I told you, I'm lousy at carding. I have tried 100 different ways, and 100 different times I have sucked at carding. But I can get it to work just well enough to do what I want. And I mean, in the end, that's all that really matters. All right. Now I get it all clumped up. See, I suck at carding. So if that happens, you end up with it twisted all over the back ends of the pins. I'll just take it all off. Fluff it up into a nice little cloud. Plop it into the cards and start over again. And I do it a little more carefully this time. Because as I said, I honestly, truly, really suck at carding. But see, rescued. And then I just lift. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Now, because we are rolling it into puni rolags, I don't worry about any folded over fibers and stuff. I'm not as worried about getting it straight as I am about getting it blended. So, there we go. And I like that blend. So, put aside my hand card, grab my double pointed needles, slide it. See if you can see this. See the beard hanging over? Just slide it along the pins right under that fiber at the edge of the card. See how it just goes, slides right under those fibers. Well, maybe not perfect because I was trying to look at the camera while I was doing it. There we go, that's better. Then just lay your other knitting needle on top, pull it out to the ends of your fiber, and then start twisting. Then lift just a smidge and pull. Keep it really gentle until you see how much pressure you need, just to stretch out those fibers, which will straighten them some more too. So anything that's bent over will kind of straighten out. Stretch and then roll. Stretch and then roll. Now you can also do 2 or 3 rolags per card if you want. The thickness of your rolags is entirely up to you. I tend to just throw it all on into one rolag and spin from that. All right, then push your ends in and twist. Now, when you get to this twisting stage, you can just keep sitting there and twist and twist and twist, and you can make it so tight that you're never going to get your knitting needles out of there, and it's never going to draft when you go to spin. It'll be too tightly packed. So, see, this is pretty tight. Probably a little too tight. So next time I'll be a little more gentle on my twisting. And there's our rolag. I've had a bunch of questions about how I clean my cards when I do the no fleece left behind, because that gets really, really, really dirty. So while I'm thinking about it, I'll just show you real quick. You can see there's fiber left in my cards. So handles together, tips together, just drag those forward teeth through the lower card. So you're basically lifting the guck out of this side. Then do the other side, do it the other way. And then if you do this, that loosens up most of the fiber to the surface. So pick all that off. Do that a few times till you get the fiber out. Then what I do to get the dirt that accumulates in these, flip it upside down, and the dirt will fall out. If you're still having issues, there is a handy little tool that I use, and that is this. You can see how it's got these tines. You can also see how often I use it because it's full of guck. This is actually for cleaning hairbrushes. You can get it on Amazon. If I think of it, and if they still have it listed, I'll post a link in the description. You can get smaller ones at the dollar store and stuff. That'll at least get you going. And then you just with the big ones to get any loose stuff out, and then to get that really fine stuff, you can still see it's still stuck in there. This will just pluck it right out. I see I need to straighten some teeth on here too. I should probably just do a whole video on caring for equipment. I do care for mine occasionally. I mean, I am rough and tough on it, but they do get spa days now and then. So there we go. Card is cleaned. All the bits and pieces are out of it. I've had these cards probably, well, since I started spinning. So like I learned with these, I've beaten and abused these. I've done all sorts of things with these, and they're still holding up really well. I would recommend them for sure. I've enjoyed them. And I mean, I do believe that equipment should be able to take a little bit of abuse and be able to fix it yourself, because otherwise, if the slightest little bump is going to break it, that's a problem for me, because I am a complete and absolute klutz. But anyways, we're not talking about my klutziness. We're talking about this handy little tool that I use to clean my cards. And you can sit there and like literally pick out every little bit of debris, and it'll get caught in these little tines here. And you can just pull those apart to clean them out. Get out all the little hairs and stuff. And it does a dandy job. So it's just a hairbrush cleaner. You can also use this on your drum carder. I've used it on my drum carder and it works fantastic. Gets out all those little bits that get way down in there. Excellent little tool, worth the investment. This one is an Olivia Garden, and it's called the brush cleaner. It's a really handy little tool. Highly recommend it. So now that we have a couple of rolags made, we're going to spin them up, and I'll show you how we spin those woolen. Just take me a minute to reset here, or maybe not. I just need to get my box out of the way. Now, when I'm packing up my fiber between workings, I just generally tuck it all inside the pillowcase to contain any little bits and pieces that want to fly away. Wrap it all up in a little bundle. And I mean, I have a love affair with baskets. I have this basket. It's got my mini combs and my brushes, or my cards in it, hand carders in it. I just tuck that in there, and I can work on making rolags while watching TV. I can sit and watch TV and make up a bunch of rolags, and then I'm ready to spin later. So I have a few rolags in my other little basket here. As far as wheel setup goes, I want a fairly high uptake, so I'm going to set my Scotch tension Well, not really high, sort of medium. The nice thing about spinning woolen yarn is you can get into a groove and you can spin one-handed. But that is all in the nature of the prep and how finely tuned your spinning wheel is. I'm going to just tip you guys up a little bit. There we go. All right. So I have my leader. I'm going to fully charge it. That's Z twist. I want S twist. So I want to go counterclockwise. Adjust my Scotch tension. I was noticing that Lars, which is the name of my spinning wheel, my Lendrum that I've had for years, he's in need of a really good spa day. And I've been debating buying a second wheel for a long time. So I have done it. I ordered a second wheel. And when it gets here, I am going to take apart Lars, clean them all up 100%, maybe give him a new lacquer job or at least some wax and buff and polish and give him all the love and attention he deserves. And I'll be able to continue spinning with my second wheel. And I will do a full review and all that stuff when it arrives. So we take our rolag. Now you can start drafting it right away if you want. Just pull on one end and start drafting it out. I find it easiest to use a loop leader when I'm spinning woolen. I find it just grasps on better. Just pull it through, let it twist back on itself. All right, now here's where we get the feel for our fiber and our setup. Yeah, I got way too much uptake. Oh. All right. So with woolen, you're just letting the twist go where it will, pretty much. You can control the thickness of your yarn by when you let the twist in and how you stretch it out. And then pinch and wind it on. So you start pinch to stop the twist. Here's your fiber source. Draft it back a bit, but don't let it come apart. Let the twist in. So you can work with that stop, stretch, stop, stretch, let the twist in, stretch it out. So you can see where I let it get too thin. The twist is always going to run immediately to where it's thinnest. It runs like water to the thinnest point. So now that I've got it too thin, I'm going to pop that piece out. And I'm going to fluff out the two ends. And I'm going to let them catch together. All right. Woolen is very much a spin by feel thing. You have to try it, and then you'll start to feel, you'll know, just the feeling will come to your hands, and you'll know when it's about to fly apart. And that's when you stop and you get some spin in there, and then you can just wind it onto your wheel. Now, if you get a proper prep going and you have your wheel set up, you can do it one-handed. I would not attempt it with this prep because it's not a homogeneous fiber source. I've done this with straight yak and I've done it one-handed. So basically the front hand is just controlling the twist. The back hand is drafting back until you get it to the thickness you want. Then just treadle to add your twist and onto your wheel. Control your twist as you're drafting. You basically just want to let little bits of twist in at a time so that as you draft, it will pull apart the thicker pieces until you can get it all to a somewhat consistent thickness of yarn. Woolen is never going to be perfect. The first thing you have to let go of is the image in your head of perfection. It will have thick and thin bits. It will have little nubby noil bits. And that is part of the beauty of woolen yarn. It traps a lot of air in there, so it does make it a warmer yarn. Okay, you can see how that just snapped. We can still save this. Fluff a bit there, fluff a bit there. You cannot join yarn that has twist in it. So you have to fluff it out and let it join. Now that was a thin spot, I believe, that over twisted and then snapped. All right, there we go. When you ply this yarn, I don't think I've ever tried a woolen as a singles. That would be an interesting experiment. But when you ply this yarn, a lot of those inconsistencies will sort of work themselves out. They'll match up little nubbies and stuff, and they'll make a more balanced yarn when you're done. And I just find it's relaxing to spin woolen, to let go of that. It has to be flawless. It has to be, you know, absolutely the same number of fibers in every draft, because that's not going to happen with a woolen yarn. You're giving up control. When you're ready to add your new rolag, you see how I have loose fibers there? I'm just going to pull out a little bit on the end, lay them together, and then draft them together. And I will sort of manage the join. Then once that's going, then I go back to just managing how I let the twist in, working on getting a consistent diameter, or relatively consistent, because the first thing you have to do when you're spinning woolen is give up control. You can only control so much. You cannot make this perfection. Perfection for a woolen spun yarn is imperfection. Ha! Look at what I just came out with. At least in my world. Again, I am no expert spinner. I am what you might call a guerrilla spinner. What I've learned by watching and trying and developing my own tastes, basically, and techniques. And to me, the beauty of a woolen spin is the inconsistencies and the imperfections. To me, that's what makes it beautiful. That's not to say that you want your variations to be crazy. You want to try for the same kind of diameter, the same sort of twists per inch and that sort of thing. But a lot of woolen spinning is just going by feel. All right. This is 2 rolags worth of spinning. Because I was chatting, I wasn't paying attention to how it was loading on my bobbin, so I've got a really lousy load. But the colors are absolutely beautiful. There is not an ounce of scratch in this. It is soft and silky and beautiful. I'm going to card up a bunch more of these rolags, and I'm going to shoot another sit and spin video for tomorrow. And we are going to talk about Randonautica. If you haven't heard about it, have a quick look at it and see what you think, because I am absolutely fascinated by it. I think it's just an amazing topic. So next sit and spin, we'll be working with our Yak Silk hand-carded rolags, and we'll be discussing Randonautica. Thanks for joining me. Bye.